Hey guys, and welcome back to part 2 of my Back to the Basics YouTube series. Today's video is all about simple print lettering, but if you haven't checked out the first video, I'll leave a link here. Otherwise, we'll jump right in. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're just going to write out a couple different varieties of our print font before we expand on those and learn some fun tricks that we can do. So we're just going to start with our pen. It doesn't matter what pen you have. And we're gonna write, let's just write the word hello. So the easiest one that's different from like your standard font is going to be narrow and skinny. So we'll write hello. So I'm making these letters about 2 units tall, and you can change that. But the purpose is to make them taller than they are wide and then keep them close together. And so that's the first one. The next one's going to be your standard print font, but we're going to add some serifs to it. So we're going to write hello again, and we'll write it in lowercase letters. So there we have the word hello. Now to add serifs, we're just gonna go to all the ends of the letters. So anywhere there where the letter ends, we're gonna add these little straight horizontal lines. And that's a really fun and easy way to dress up your basic handwriting. So if I was writing the word Monday in my regular print, I would just write it like this. This is my slow and neat handwriting, not my everyday note-taking writing. But then I'm just gonna go through, and you'll get pretty quick at this, and you're just gonna add these little serifs to the bottom. And these don't have to be perfect. If you're doing smaller print, they're not really that noticeable. And so that, you can see, makes a big difference compared to just your regular writing, just adding those little serifs on there. The next one's what I call faux block lettering, which is kind of block lettering, but it's not as draw intensive. So instead you're making a lot of rectangles. So we're gonna write hello again in lowercase letters, and we'll start with the downstroke of that H. So this one I'm gonna go a little higher. So this one I'm doing a unit of 3. So now, instead of bringing that hump over for the H, we're going to draw a second line to create that block effect. Add the top of it. You can even add serifs to this. And then draw that hump on your H. And you can add that serif there if you want. Okay, so for the E, this one's a little trickier because we still want to keep that block on the left-hand side. So we're gonna draw our straight line out, and then when we bring this around, we're gonna bring it farther so that it doesn't touch this horizontal line. So like that. Okay, so for our L, that's pretty easy. We'll just make 2 straight lines for one L, connect them, and then do the exact same thing with the next L. And then the O, we'll just draw an O. Make sure you make it big enough to add in that block piece, and then take a line and bring it straight down. So that is faux block lettering. So the next one we'll do will be actual block lettering. And once you get here, you have to change your mindset from writing and handwriting to drawing. You're no longer really writing at this point, you will be drawing. So the best way to do this is to start in pencil. So I grab my pencil, and we'll just start with our H. So we can just do this. And oftentimes it's easier to do block lettering in all capitals than it is in smaller, just because you're gonna have less curves, but that's totally up to you. I'm going to go ahead and do all capitals, and you'll see why it's a little easier. So The first step, like I said, is just to kind of sketch it out in pencil. So these are all very basic shapes. They're all rectangles. We have 2 vertical rectangles and then a shorter horizontal rectangle that connects them. So with an E, think, okay, I've got this big downstroke, and now I have to add the top piece, which is a rectangle, the bottom piece, which is a rectangle, and then the middle piece, which is a shorter rectangle. And then we'll do the same thing for our L. And so you can just draw these out as rectangles. So you have one long and a shorter one to connect it. And then O, we'll just draw our O regular, a capital O. It's okay if you have to go around it a couple times to get it more accurate. And then we'll draw an interior O that's a little smaller. Well, quite a bit smaller. And then what you would do is you'd go back over it in your pen, but you aren't going to go over these lines where they connect. So you're just going to trace around the outline of each letter. If you want to get a crisper line with sharper corners, you can use a ruler. If you want to make your corners a little bit more rounded, just round out the corners where you get there and don't focus so much on creating those sharp corners. Okay, so from here you can go through and you can erase those pencil lines, and then you could fill in this lettering with a color, or you could leave it just like it is, or you could fill it in with a pattern. I'm going to show you some of that here in just a minute. So now we'll go back to our very first lettering style up here, and I'm going to show you some ways to kind of dress it up just a little bit. It's the simplest one on the list. It's just taking your letters and making them taller. So from here we could do hello, so we'll write it again the exact same. So just keeping narrow, tall, thin letters. Okay, and then from here we can add some details. So we could do a dot at the top and bottom, so almost like serifs, but instead of serifs we're just using dots. And then you can choose if you want to put one on the O. I usually put one right there at the top. Another fun thing to do with this style is to add some other details to it. So if I'm writing hello, and maybe I have a summer theme going in my journal, maybe I can take and draw some little flowers throughout, just sporadically. They don't have to be placed anywhere specific, just 1 or 2 on each letter. And these are just your standard 4-point flowers that you probably did in like first grade. They just are 4 teardrop shapes coming to the center. So those are some fun and easy ways to add some details to this very simple lettering style. Moving on to our serif lettering style, I just wanted to show you that you can do it with capital letters as well. So we'll go ahead and write Monday. So I'm just adding my serifs at all these points. The O doesn't have a serif. And then the N has 4. And then on your D, you're going to just bring that serif back behind your downstroke. So right there. And then A. And finally Y. And so that's how you can do it with capital letters. All right, now we get to move on to the more fun ones that have a little bit more play with them. So instead of rewriting these a bunch of times, I'm going to show you a couple things. So I'm going to grab a different pen. This is an 05. I want something that's a little smaller because I'm going to be drawing inside the blocks of these. So I want something that's a little bit smaller. So one way to make this lettering style stand out a little bit better and give it a little bit of detail is to add like patterns inside. So I'm going to show you a couple different ones that are really easy. You can take and just make diagonal lines all the way across. You could do bubbles. I'm going to do that one on the L because it's a little bit bigger. So maybe you make some big and some small little dots inside. If you have like an underwater theme or a summer theme, this might work. So you could do bubbles. You can do this V shape. So you just draw a V right about the center, and then you can choose to color in the top or the bottom. And this gives it a lot of contrast. So like that. You could just do horizontal lines. You could do hearts. You can do any pattern you want. Or you can just fill it in with solid color, that's fine too. So that is a fun way to dress up this lettering style. You can also do this lettering style in capital letters. So I'll go ahead and show you that now. So now I'm writing the word happy, and I want to show you guys how I use this style with all capital letters and my rule of thumb for using these thicker block lines. So my rule of thumb is to keep the block line on the left-hand side unless the letter has a longer side to it, like if the right-hand side is longer, which is why I'm writing the word happy. Because in a Y, for instance, the left-hand side is not going to be the longest line. So we go here, and then on the Y, the right-hand line is longer, so I will double up my stroke on that line. And again, you can fill this in however you want. So you could do diagonal lines. You can also just change it up halfway. And maybe you only put diagonal lines halfway and then divide it. Like that. So we'll move on to our block lettering, and I'm just gonna do our examples directly on this one so that I don't have to redraw it. So once you have your word written out in your block lettering, you can do a bunch of different things. So the one is to fill it in with a pattern like up here, and then the next thing that you can do is to add a drop shadow. So the best explanation I have for a drop shadow is to take your pencil even and imagine a light source. Okay, so if this was real, if this was in real life and these were real 3D letters, where would your light source be? So let's say we have a light source coming from up here. This is our light, right there. So that light is shining like this, right? So our shadows are going to cast that way because this side of the letter, the side closest to this light source, is going to be illuminated by the light. So to create a drop shadow, now, because our light source is here on the right upper hand side, our shadow will be on the left and bottom. So the way to do this is to take your corner. So on this H, we're just gonna go from this corner down, and then from this corner down, this corner down. So any corner you have on your letter, you're gonna draw a line, a diagonal line. And these are aiming away from the light source at an angle. So then when I connect these, so I connect that one, and this one, and this one. So right here, if you were to leave it just like this, now you have a 3D letter effect. But if you fill it in with your black pen, then you don't have those lines at the corners anymore, and then it's just a drop shadow. So you can leave it as it is with the 3-dimensional block lettering, or you can fill it in so that you actually have that drop shadow. So we kept our shadow on the left and bottom side of our H. You don't see a shadow up here, on this center bar on the top, or on the right hand side of this side of the letter or this side of the letter. So now we're going to do the same thing here. So make a line down, 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 and down. I do find it easier to put your drop shadow on the left-hand side. There's often going to be a lot less drop shadows on that side, meaning that you don't have to make all those corners and figure out where it is, where if you were up here, you're going to be casting this way, which means the ends of all these E's will need drop shadows as well. So on this one, we just go here and here to this corner. And those would be our only drop shadows on the E. And on the L, we're just going to go down to that corner and bring that corner down. Because again, we don't want this right-hand side or the top to have a shadow. So we'd color that in and do the same thing for this L. And then for the O, you kind of just have to draw a line out from where it starts to curve around. So I'm just gonna go from the top and just start drawing my diagonal line. So there it comes out there, and then I'm gonna curve it at the same curve of the O and right back down, except we want it to come farther down because it's gonna go underneath. So then we have the left-hand side of our O, and we still have to do the inside. So on the inside, it's gonna be the same thing. So we're gonna go here and here. Just like that. And now you have a really easy drop shadowed header. So these are just a couple print headers that you can do outside of your regular handwriting. I didn't want to get too much into brush lettering because that is a whole nother beast. So the next video will be some really fun and simple doodles. We will break them down step by step, and you will be able to add them to your planner or bullet journal right away. If you'd like to know when the next video goes live, be sure to subscribe to my channel. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching.